Here's the 3 intuition blocks that you're probably ignoring, and it's time to start paying attention to them. So here's the thing. When it comes to looking at intuition blocks, there are certain things that we might be missing in plain sight. And this is the thing. Sometimes understanding our intuition can be a little bit tricky. And so I want to break it down so it's easy and simple for you to properly grasp, understand, and walk away knowing exactly what is taking you out from knowing your intuition better. Let's get started. Hey guys, it is Ashley from theawakenstate.net. And when it comes to looking at our intuition, the number one thing I really want you to get here is it's one of the most valuable tools for your spiritual awakening. I think this is a concept I continuously keep circling back to with so much emphasis on understanding who we are at our core, our authentic self, connecting to our higher self, knowing who we are with our intuitive gifts, knowing our natural aligned gifts, knowing our personal sense of spiritual alignment. All of it comes back to your intuition. And there's a reason for this, because our intuition helps us connect to the part of our brain that helps us connect to the spiritual world. It helps us naturally connect to the quantum part of who we are, literally our connection to higher self. Our intuition is one of the most powerful things to properly understand because it helps us naturally tune into our gifts that are unique to who we are as a person. Now, when it comes to looking at intuitive blocks, this is a different conversation because we can start to see here that as a society, we might have suppressed our intuition. We might have grown up with a lot of religious dogma, or we might have grown up with a lot of, don't trust yourself mentalities that are completely hindering our potential when it comes to looking at embracing our intuitive self. So when it comes to looking at our intuition, one of the hugest things I really want you to grasp here is when we look at the non-intuitive self, we have almost this concept of the lower mind versus the higher mind. And I've talked about this in previous videos, but it's really important to understand that the lower mind is your survival mind, and the higher mind is your connection to higher self, quantum planes, understanding the quantum intelligence of who you are, basically knowing who you are beyond conditioning. That's an easier way to really grasp this. Whereas the lower mind is your survival mind. Now, because of the survival mind, this is the oldest part of your brain, whereas the higher mind is more of the evolved part of your brain. And so you can see there's 2 different conversations here of your brain trying to communicate. And now your survival brain is there to help you literally survive. Whereas the higher brain is literally designed to help you go through life, to navigate life, to understand yourself deeper, to connect to the spiritual quantum side of who you are, and so forth. So you can see here how these 2 things are happening simultaneously all the time. But a lot of the times, most of us just stay in the lower mind and we don't explore the higher mind. So when we have an intuitive practice, when we have meditation, when we get into a flow state, when we just, I just was talking about this with my man, and he was saying how, I finally understand spiritual practice, Ashley, because when I'm doing my run, when I'm on the treadmill and I'm running for like miles and miles, I enter this flow state and it allows me to get into an intuitive headspace. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you're entering that alpha state of consciousness that's connected to your intuition. So you're naturally entering a state of meditative thought. In the same way, we have this ability to understand that we can tap into the higher mind. When we don't tap into the higher mind, this is where we have those blocks. This is where we start to get stuck. So a lot of people get stuck in the lower mind and they forget to connect to the higher mind, which allows us to naturally connect to our intuition. So when it comes to looking at this, we can start to see that there are 3 hidden blocks that you really got to look out for. And here is the first one. The first one is overthinking. Have you ever caught yourself overthinking, overdoing, overcompensating, overanalyzing, overcritiquing yourself, where you're in literally a constant cycle of excess energy, where you're overthinking, overdoing. This is a huge sign of blocking your intuition. When you are overthinking the entire situation and you're chronically like analyzing the situation, you are no longer in your intuition. Your intuition operates from a place where you have an immediate thought. It is the place of what we call first response. It is the first response before the thought can even take hold. It's why in freaking Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, it's you literally have 5 seconds before your brain kills the idea, right? So in layman's terms, that's what she's talking about. She's talking about the fact that within a certain time period, your brain will start to kill the idea because you start overthinking, overanalyzing. Fear comes in and so forth. The number one intuition block that people have is overthinking. So if you're a chronic overthinker, if you're constantly overanalyzing a situation, you are too much in your head and not enough in your body. And that is the layman's terms way of understanding it, is you have caught yourself in a place where you are in beta wave thinking and you're not tapped into your body. So this is one of the hugest indicators of a blocked intuition, is you're overthinking, overdoing, overcompensating. And of course, I always like to connect this one back to a chakra, because 9 times out of 10, if that's happening, it's probably an imbalanced root chakra. Okay, so let's move on. When it comes to looking at the next one, it's fear of being wrong. So this one could connect back to your childhood. It could connect back to past wounds. It could even connect back to just some kind of somewhere down the line told you that you can't think for yourself. So there's a fear of being wrong. There's a fear of, oh my God, I can't make a mistake. I have a fear of not trusting myself. So this lack of trust is a huge disconnection between your intuition. If you don't trust yourself, your intuition will be really murky and faulty, and like a faulty GPS system that doesn't work. You're constantly rerouting and constantly trying to find the signal because your intuition is not tuned into trusting your internal signal. So if you were to think about how frequencies work, if we can't trust our own personal frequency, how can we decipher how to connect within? How can we decipher what is the right move to make? We're always looking outside of ourselves for the answer. So I like to say in this way, we're too externally influenced that we don't have the discernment to tune into our body and know that the decision is right for us. And this is one of the hugest differentiations between understanding I almost said blocked third eye. It is a blocked third eye, but a blocked intuition. Because when you see it as simple as that, if you have a fear of being wrong, there's a lack of trust. And that lack of trust is stemming from too much external influence and not enough internal influence, because you're putting too much focus on external versus internal. And this is usually developed in childhood, where we like, is this okay? Is this right? Think about all those people in Facebook groups who ask questions like all the live long day. Like, should I get this stress or should I get this stress? What do you guys think? Do you think I should get this stress? We have an inability to decide things for ourselves. I can totally relate to this one because I grew up with a mother who always tried to decide for me. So when you think about this as a concept, it's about reclaiming self and self-trust. And that is a huge, huge help to empowering your intuition that you might not even be thinking about, because if there's a fear of I'm wrong, or I can't trust myself, or I can't make this decision, then you're always going to kind of be second guessing. You're going to be like tripping on a basic decision, like picking out your meal, for example, or just finding the right outfit for a party, because behind that is, what if I'm wrong? What if this isn't right? And so one caveat I like to say to this is to find the thought before the thought. To, when this happens, to think about, what was my first thought? That's probably the right answer. Because 9 times out of 10, that thought was your intuition, but you completely vetoed out from that thought. And instead, what happened is you just decided to overthink, overanalyze, overcritique, and you decided to weigh the terms and then ask the audience for the answer. So you can see how that is how it spirals out of control. let's move on. The final thing is feeling disconnected from the body, which this all connects to all the other things. So when we have a sense of I feel ungrounded, I am disconnected from the body. So because of this sensation, I am not present in my body, so I can't tune into my intuition. So if you were to just think about why intuition works so powerfully during meditation, it's because you're present in your body, because you are connecting the mind back to the body, and now you are present in your body. And this, it might sound like a silly concept, but if you were to just think about it, a lot of people are in past and present, or past and future thinking. They're in past and future thinking, which makes them disconnect from the body, and then they can't hear their own intuition because they're weighing pros and cons in their mind. This simple way to look at an intuitive block is to realize that when you feel disconnected from the body, you are disconnected from your mind. So the mind is not connected to the body with the mind-body connection, so there is no intuitive link. And instead, you're operating from the lower survival mind. Now, in psychology, we would call this a dysregulated nervous system. But what's happening through consciousness is you're basically connecting to that lower mind and not the higher mind, because you're disconnecting the mind back from the body. Now, I like to always say that technically our intuition is connected to our body, and a lot of people are disconnected from their body, so they can't connect to their intuition. And a part of that is because they feel ungrounded, they feel unsafe, they feel unsupported. And as a result, what they need to do is work back on mindful movement, getting back into the body, focusing on feeling that the body is safe, and doing practices that support mindful movement, because this helps regulate not just their nervous system, but also bringing back their intuition. Okay, I know that was a mouthful. I would love to know what was the top tip or the one block that really stood out to you. Let me know in the comments. And most importantly, I have an awesome free challenge for you that is coming up soon called the Reclaim Your Intuition Challenge. So if you'd like more info on that, it is at theawakenstate.net/intuition. And we're going to be diving headfirst into all things intuition, understanding your intuitive gifts, understanding intuitive blocks, how to start overcoming intuitive blocks, and so forth. If you like more where that came from, definitely sign up at the link below. And most importantly, if you like our videos, please hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.